All right. Father Moo back in the studio. Well, I don't really know when these are going to go out because I record them and then sometimes I mess up the order. But the last video I recorded was the one where I built the metal fetishist. And in that video, I was not using my delay pedal. And the idea I had earlier today was to make another video which is not a dub video. That's right, not an attempt to make dub reggae on the Nord Micro Modular. So, what I wanted to make instead was a Gameboy landscape. I have done this before, especially in 2024 and before, but it's been a while, and I want to try it again. So, again, we are not going to use the delay pedal, and however, in making the metal fetishist, I didn't spend very long making it sound very good. That's on me, not on the instrument I was trying to emulate. But it didn't sound terrible at the end. And in this one, I will also attempt to make it not sound terrible. So that's that. So, what is a Game Boy landscape? Great question. Well, I have been obsessed with making lo-fi music that people would now call chiptunes since before it was called that. And I got my first real synth in 2001. That was the Yamaha AN1X. And in that same year, I also got 2 copies of a cartridge for the original Game Boy that was called Nanoloop 1.0. Nanoloop is basically a cartridge, like a game, but it's not a game. It turns the Game Boy into a programmable multi-step sequencer that can make, I think it has 3 instruments. One of them is just noise that is used to make percussion, and the other 2 are very low-bit FM synthesis. One of them is FM synthesis, and the other one lets you draw a waveform, if I remember correctly. I haven't used it in a very long time. So I really liked the sound of that instrument. It was kind of noisy, but to be honest, you're probably listening to noise right now from my cheap microphone and mixer setup here. And I really enjoyed sequencing on that, and I was also recording music on the computer, but I would even make songs that almost sounded like dub on that, or to my ear they did, although it doesn't have any effects in it, so it couldn't have any delay, but I might run it into a delay or something. So a Game Boy landscape is my name or nickname for essentially like an ambient piece of music that is in the chiptune style. So real chiptunes or real old school video game music is usually very fast, very high tempo, almost like techno in some ways, but it doesn't have to be. And I think, the early computer game sound programmers had very limited, technology at their fingertips. So they tried to make it exciting, I guess, and most of it's fast. So I wanted to make it slow. So yeah, this is basically ambient chiptune music, if you don't want to call it Game Boy landscapes. I don't think anyone other than me has ever used that term, but I do. So whatever. So yeah, I'm going to build something that sounds a bit ambient today and a bit lo-fi, and I'm going to use a couple of techniques to do that. I'm pretty sure I've made at least one Game Boy landscape on the Nord Micro Modular for this video series. You can go back and find it if you care. I can't imagine that you would, but yeah, I'm making another one today, so here we go. So I started with an 8-channel mixer feeding into the single output that I'll be using today. And I'm going to follow my method of don't try to build too many things right off the bat. Just build them one by one and try to make each one sound good as it goes, and you'll have a better final result, is the hope. So here goes with our first instrument. I've chosen the Spectral Osc, which I'll talk about in a second. The standard multi-mode filter. And for the envelope, I'm going to choose ADSR. And let's wire it up. So this is a pretty straightforward configuration here. That's just the audio. We're going to have to trigger it. I think I'm going to do what I did in the last video, which is make a clock gen first. Use it to feed a clocked pattern generator. And in that last video, instead of feeding this clock into the pattern generator, well, I forget exactly what I did. But, oh yeah, I remember it now. So what I did was I made this a clocked random step generator. And usually I would feed this clock into this directly to make the modulation change with the beat of the sequence. But what I did in the last one was I used the pattern generator to feed this click, because this pattern generator, I don't really know why the output is blue, because it seems to generate clocks. Maybe I just use it only for that. But if I use it to clock this and to trigger my envelope, as I realized in the previous video, then the modulation will change only when this outputs a step. I'm going to engage these two buttons to make the amount of steps it outputs less. Oh, it's still quite a few. Let's drop the tempo down. And I think this is making too many hits overall. So what I'm going to do for another thing is make a random pulse generator. And I'm also going to make a logic processor. One of my favorite bits of tech in the Nord Micromodular. So now we have the output of this thing going into this, but we also have the output of the random pulse generator, and we're going to set it to and. Oh, it's already in and mode, which means sound will only come out of here when both this and this make a hit. So that means it'll be on while this guy is on and this thing is pulsing. And then when this guy goes off, even if this pulses, the output of this will not be sent. And that means it'll be quiet, which is what I want it to do. So there'll be pauses in the sequence. It'll play a few steps, and then it'll stop, and then it'll play some more. So by using this output, the AND output, to trigger both the clock random generator and the ADSR, I will get the sequence that I want, and I will also get this output to only change when this triggers. So every note on will have a slightly modified sound. Oh, I've forgotten an important element of this, which is the digitizer. Digitizer was used in the last video as well. It has two functions. It reduces the bit rate and it reduces the sample rate. If you turn this up to full, it doesn't do anything. And I usually turn this off because when you reduce the bit rate, it tends to mess with your low end in a really noisy way, I guess. But by going like this, I get a little bit of sample rate reduction, which is getting me a little closer to the lo-fi sound I'm going for. And I got this guy patched into spectral shapes, so here's another part of my lo-fi sound. By setting the partials to odd, I get something like a square wave. And if you study the history of video game music, you'll know that sometimes all they had to make music with was a square wave, so it makes a typical sort of Gameboy type sound, lo-fi sound. And rather than just a normal square wave, I'm messing with the spectral shape here, though you don't really hear it that much yet. And again, every time a note triggers, it will have a new spectral shape, and now it will also have a new sample reduction rate. So some of them will be more processed than others, and we'll get more variation. Oh, you see, that one was very like Game Boy-ish. So all we're getting is a beep here. I think we can take this guy down. I think I'm going to send him down 2 octaves and see what I get. And go. There it is. Okay. And I'm going to make him a bit more ambient-y by increasing the release time and also increasing the attack time. And I'm going to turn the sustain down a little bit, but it is not super necessary. So this is more like a synth pad type of sound. It fades in slowly, it fades out slowly. That might be too long for the release, but we'll just listen a bit and see if we like it. And it's very quiet. Let's maybe open up the filter a bit. We'll give it some keyboard tracking, which means if the note it receives is actually, I don't know if that's true. If you connect a keyboard, this will know which note is being played and adapt the filter to make it more similar to it. I think I'm going to try this same CV output on here, see what I get, if I like it or not. I'm definitely getting those low-fire sounds. I'm going to make them a little bit less harsh by dialing this up. Whoa, that was harsh. Harsh toke, man. Okay, I think what's happening is this means that the filter opens up at the same time. Well, actually, I don't know exactly why it's doing that, but I don't think I want this output. I think I want this. This is a random generator, and it doesn't have a clock built into it. You just set the rate here, but it's set to a smooth setting, so it should mess with the filter a bit in a way it's disconnected from this information. I'm going to give the filter a bit more of this resonance. Let me switch it to 12 and see if I like it better. Okay. And, oh, I forgot to do this. I think I'm going to take a... Now, I've forgotten where this one is. Yep, there he is. Note Quantizer, another one of my favorites. Huh, that's not it. Oh, yeah, I know what it is. Key Quantizer, right? It's called Key Quantizer. There it is, there it is, there it is. Something strange has happened because this is supposed to say 64, but instead I think it says question mark 4. And the last one did that as well, which is very strange and not good, probably. Okay, the first digit has been turned into a question mark. I do not know why that has happened. Okay. Let's leave the range on max for now. I'm going to turn on continuous because that means that it moves smoothly from step to step. And I think this should work. Oh, yeah, this might be not terrible. Okay, let's try this, this, and this. So it's playing C, A, and G. And let's send this same CV into here. And then send this to here and max it out. So having a wide range is a bit weird for a bass line because it's going to be all over the place. I thought I could use this to count the exact number of steps. Maybe I still can. Let's try it one more time. So let's count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So that should be 1 octave. And I set it to C, G, and A, which are all notes that can be in the bass line without being too weird. And I think I'm going to add E. That'll probably be fine. It could be that I'm pretty sure I set my Nord Modular editor to be in Windows 98 compatibility mode. That's getting kind of loud. Maybe this will solve that problem. But anyway, I'll mess around with the editor and see if I can solve that issue. But it could be just because this is a new computer running a very old piece of software and that digit isn't showing up. What's even weirder is it showed up on the previous one I made. Let me prove that to you. So here's the control note quantizer I first used. You can see this is also a question mark here, which is very weird. So I think the version of Windows I have just doesn't recognize that digit. But we'll soon know. If this wasn't set exactly to 12, like I hoped that it was, it's now showing question mark 0.0, which is a very interesting math proposition. If it isn't tunable, then setting it to 12 means 1 octave. So if I missed by even 1 step, we would know because it'll be out of tune with the other oscillators when I make some. But right now we've got something that sounds pretty good. It's a bass line. I think I'm going to set this to a smaller number, which means that it will be off more often. Because, when this light turns off, the bass line will go away. And this is more slow now, so it means it's off more of the time. I think it's in tune, though. Anyway, we'll find out. And I also like what's going on here. The spectral shape is working for me. Let's try switching it just for fun. We'll listen to that for a bit and we'll go back to it. Doesn't sound that Gameboy-like. Let's try dialing in this a bit. Or it might be crazy, but let's even turn this on. Now we have to wait for it to play again. Okay, I like that. Let's go with that. So back to odd partials, but I don't think it's better. So you see, I set it to odd because my plan was make something square wave-like, but it didn't sound as good to me as I thought it could, and maybe it's because there's more actual partials for the spectral shape to sort of modify and bite into, and the filter to process. Okay, that's very Gameboy now. Anyway, but whatever it is, trust your ear, that's my advice. Let's make another one here, another tonal instrument. I think LFOB. this is a square wave. I wanted to make a square wave. I didn't even remember. Oh, wait, I know what it is. This is an LFO, not an oscillator. Haha, that was dumb. Oscillator B. Of course, the super dedicated of this fans of the show will remember that our friend Jerome once suggested to use LFOs as oscillators, especially if you didn't care about hi-fi sound, because it would save you a little processing power. That was a very smart thought. I don't usually do it, but I appreciate the thought. I think I'm going to try classic LP filter for this one. And I'm going to give him a AD envelope. No. Well, actually, let's give him an ADSR just like this guy, because this is working for me. So this guy is tuned 2 octaves above this guy. Let's leave him where he is, and I've set him to square. And I definitely want to do, well, maybe this will already be fine. This can be used to the pulse width input. So if you set any oscillator, not just the Nords, to square wave, you can sort of thin out the square wave by modulating the phase width. In some older instruments, if you modulate it too much, the square wave will be so modulated that it plays nothing. But we're not there yet. So let's set up the audio chain. So again, we abandoned a square wave here, so I thought, okay, why not make a square wave here, since we got rid of our first attempt to do that. This is going to be another melodic patch, so what will I do for this one? Let's make another clock, just to be weird, because we're being weird. Thought I'd gone over the processor limit, but that's not true. Here's another pattern gen. I used to use drag and drop, but my keyboard's too far away from me to reach it, so I'm just going to make it. It's hiding in LFOs. Clock pattern gen. And I'm going to do this same trick here with the clock random step generator, because it's a new idea and different. So let's set these to random values. The other guy was on, oh, he's still on 16. Well, it doesn't matter how many steps he's on, because he's getting turned off some of the time. And he's already pretty weird. But let's set this one to something weird anyway. Let's set it to 17 just to be wacky. And I'm going to set this to be triggered by that. I'm going to set the tempo to a very slow. That's 24 BPM. About 35, 30 something. And we'll do the same trick here. Clock this with that and not with the clock. And we'll send this guy. We're going to do this again, but with different settings. Go into key quantizer. Now we have the same problem, so let's go down to 0. Count up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And this guy has C, E, G, A. That's the pentatonic major. So let's do some more pentatonic stuff here. I'll give him all 5 steps. I may take some out later. I'm going to do this same trick of feeding him with that and send this, the pitch input here. It's getting a bit messy, but we should be okay. And we'll send the out of the pattern to trigger this. Oh, I thought I said I was going to make a ADSR. What's happening, buddy? Let's make an ADSR. Ooh, let's just for fun make it ADSR with modulation. So this is for the audio signal. We don't have a digitizer on this yet, but don't be surprised if I put one on, because I love it. It's awesome. And set these similar to this guy. They even look similar. That's fine. And now we're going to trigger him with this. That's his note. And I'm going to open this up to make him more random. Open this up so we can hear him. He's got a bit of motion from this, but the filter isn't being modulated yet. I was thinking of reusing some CV, but I'm just going to make something here instead. LFO and then random generator again. Set it to really slow. Use it to mess with the filter a bit. Let it drift around. Now I think it does need that ADSR on it. Sorry, I mean the digitizer on it. And it's not really pad-like enough yet. So there's the digitizer. Now he sounds more lo-fi again. Let's experiment with this. Reducing his bits, yeah. We'll bring this up a bit. So he's quite noisy now because the bit reduction is on. This one is not turned off, but he's on 12, so he's not really reduced. I realize that not everybody's going to like this sound. That's totally fine. This is what Gameboy landscapes sound like. Maybe that's why I'm not a rich and successful musician. Oh, you didn't know I wasn't rich and successful? Well, I assure you I'm not. Although I can't afford this synth, so. This is good, although we're having the same problem as before, which honestly I thought I was going to have. Which is that this guy's playing too much. So first of all, let's set the two knobs, switches really, to play less. But I think I want to do the same thing again. Which is make a random pulse gen and try to squeeze in a logic processor. And then feed the gate from here into the processor and feed the random pulse. Make that our trigger for this. Now I used entirely different clock and a different random pulse gen, which I will also slow down. So when one plays a note and the other plays a note, they have no relationship to each other at all. And this is kind of what I was going for. It's a little bit too predictable in its notes. Let's try just sending a completely random... Oops, I think I sent the wrong one. Yeah, this needs to be removed. So this is the quantizer. Instead of feeding it from the clocked random generator, I'm going to take a different, and I think it's, this random step gen. So he doesn't need a clock, he just needs this. I'm going to use him to feed this. I'm going to set this to continuous again, so it's a smooth output, and plug that in here. So he will change pitches just not when he triggers a new note, just whenever. That's pretty cool though. Let's increase this a little bit. Cool, that's pretty weird. And I'm not at 60% yet, so let's go on and make a few more things. Thought I would take a percussion osc and run that into a digitizer for Gameboyification. Lo-fi-ificornicus. Send that into here. And And how will I trigger him? This method is just working too well. I think I'm gonna... Let's make another... Let's experiment here. Yeah, another clocked pattern gen. I have to break my rule of putting all the controls on the left because we run out of space. Just send him directly to this clock. Set him to random values again. And we definitely need something going into here so that he changes patterns instead of always being the same. And use this into the trig in to make him make sound. He's going to the digitizer now. Okay, that's pretty good. Let's send him down one octave. And let's give him a key quant as well, which is in here, and I keep forgetting where it is. Doesn't matter where I put this. So we'll tune him to some notes that are in our scale again. Run him down to 0. Oh, I gotta count here. Hold on, sorry. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And run him into the pitch control. And then I'll just recycle this CV source. Oh no, wait, maybe this one. Yeah, this one. To control his note. Turn continuous on. He sounds like a little tuned drum now, but if you open this up, he'll be more note-like. Not bad, but not great. How about we use this as the feed into this, so every time he actually hits, his note should change. And you know what? Let's be crazy. We might have to undo this, but let's open this up to max, which means he now has a 4-octave range. I don't think I got it to the... Did I get it to the max? Yeah, I did. That's cool, that's cool. And let's also trigger the sample rate reduction with that. It's almost like the decay is so long that this is changing, but it doesn't sound bad to me. A bit weird, but not bad. I don't think this is in tune anymore. So let's take him back to 0. Let's count up to... I counted up to 12. Let's count to 24. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. I can kind of check my work because if it has a 0.5 in it, I missed a step. So now he has a 2-octave range while the other guys have 1. And he sounds like a weird, plunky little thing. In a good way. I have the desire to make just one more voice, and I'm going to make a noise voice. Sadly, I can't automate this knob's changes. But I can... What this does is if you turn it to the right, it removes some high frequencies. So I can do something very similar to that by running it through a filter, which I'm going to do. Let's take classic low pass again. And I'm going to give him an ADSR again, because I don't really care about my resources. Oh, I forgot to do this. Let's open up these settings a little bit. I got off a little off track. We'll go back to the noise, don't worry. By opening these up and then connecting their inputs to basically any CV source I already have, I will make this ADSR change more randomly, which is what I want it to do. In fact, especially the attack, I'm going to increase the modulation amount. So you see, that slowed down the attack of that hit. I could hear the difference on that one. Just to give it a little bit more variation and weirdness, honestly. I don't use these very much because they're pretty unpredictable, but for a completely ambient patch, it's fine. It's totally fine. So back to the noise. I got pure white noise, as it was named by the colonizers, going into the filter. I will send a random CV source to the filter amount. Turn up the resonance a little bit. It goes into the ADSR, which is also set to be slow and like a pad. And I'll send that into a digitizer again as well. It's now our 4th digitizer in this patch. This guy should be here. But that's to make it sound Gameboyish. And send it into our mixer. Also going to send a random CV source into here. And it didn't connect properly. And I'm going to reduce the sample rate. And the one thing it's not doing is nothing is triggering the ADSR, so we can't hear it. I think I'm just going to take where is it? LFO. I'm just going to take a random pulse generator like we used as a sort of clock interrupter over here and use that to just trigger this once in a while. I'm going to turn it down so it doesn't trigger too much. Can we even hear that? Let's try... This is kind of extreme, but I'm just going to do this. See if I can listen directly to the output. Okay, for one thing, the filter is moving too quickly, but the filter is removing too much sound, so I need to open it up for sure. That's just making a little noise cloud. And I don't like the modulation on this either. So I'm going to directly make controls for both of those. So I think a random step generator should help. Let's run this one into here. Let's just listen for a bit. Gotta wait for this green light. There we go. It's pretty good. We can mash it up a bit more. That's also good. And let's do the same device. Random step generator. Send him to the filter input. You notice that I haven't turned them down from their original rate because I wanted them to change with a stepped motion, not smooth, because smooth sounded dumb, at least to me. And a fast rate is okay for this. It works fine. I just wanted to make white noisy dust. So let's patch him back into the mixer. I need to actually double click this and put him in there. And everything will be off until I connect this. Should be able to hear our cloudy friend now. There he goes. I expected him to be a bit overwhelming, so let's turn him down a bit. Now, because he triggers off this, and this is pretty slow, he's less of a pattern. He's just on or off. But the ADSR smooths him out a bit, so it's fine. So to my ear, this sounds pretty good. And in fact, I know I don't have the zoom connected up. Probably in a future video, since I always start off with an old patch, I'll try running this guy into the Zoom, maybe. Well, these aren't both connected, so you wouldn't hear it. But anyway, I'll fix that later. So yeah, you are now listening to a Gameboy landscape, copyright Father Moo Industries. But feel free to build your own and start a cool trend if you want. And you too can be an unpopular and underpaid musician. Actually, I'm not paid at all, so that's fine though. I don't do it for the money. I do it to express myself, as I reminded myself today. Sounds good. I'm at 84.4. You know what I'm going to do? I was almost about to save it and stop, but I think I'm going to make a phaser. Phaser is 12%, but he's still within the range, so that's fine. And who am I going to phase? I think I want to phase the second voice, which is running into input 2. Let's unplug him from there. Plug him into the phaser. Plug the phaser in. Now, my default for ambient stuff is the rate goes down, and the two modulation options get opened up and fed with random weird data. Usually I feed them smooth LFOs. Let's use the same ones from the noise cloud that we made here to mess with the phaser, just to be different, I guess. Now, the phaser is after the digitizer, so he's phasing the digitized sound. It would sound different. I'm definitely not going to say better if you sent it to the phaser first, because but what matters is trust your ear, and I think this is fine. For the sake of experimentation, let's try. So this into here, and the output into there, and then this into number 2. Let's listen for a bit. It's interesting, but I liked it better before. So I just hit Control Z 4 times, and it's back to the previous setting. And yeah, that's my Gameboy landscape. It's just some weird ambient chiptunes music, whatever you want to call it. And yeah, do I already have a playlist for Gameboy landscapes in my YouTube channel? Well, if I don't, I will by the time you watch this, because I'm going to add one. And we used up the processing power making these 4 voices and throwing the phaser on at the end. A compressor would also have been an interesting option, but I don't think for this type of piece it's exactly what I need. So yeah, time to save. And because we're still making dub in the low numbers, I'm going to... Oh yeah, here it is. There's 99 Metal Fetishists, so... So I'm needing this number 98 Amber Chiptune. I don't think it'll fit, but it'll remind me of what it is. Yeah, it doesn't quite fit. Doesn't matter. Amber is my nickname for ambient, and since I need space, I'm going with it. There's also an Autechre album called Amber, which I like. Although I don't know if I would call it ambient. That's a bit loud. The bass is a bit loud. I think I'm just going to dial this down slightly. When you add the unpredictability, that also means you get some sounds that become too loud or too quiet. Even though it's not modulating the volume itself, changing the settings of, for example, the filtered cutoff will make the notes louder or quieter, and messing with the digitizer will make them like spikier so they stick out of the mix more. So let's save it again. Save it in the synth again. And yeah, I am in a good mood because the company that, well, I'm not even going to get into that. I'm in a good mood, and I'm going to Thailand tomorrow, and for a 5-day vacation during Chinese New Year. And I will smoke and listen to dub, because that's what I do in Thailand. People probably think I get up to some hanky-panky there, but I don't. Strictly legal in Thailand. I got a prescription. So yeah, I don't know when you'll be listening to this, but I'm probably sitting by the pool with a coconut with a straw in it and a legal smoking accessory and having a good time. So I hope you're having a good time in whatever way pleases you, because that's what matters in life. And I had a good time doing this, and as much as I like doing dub, I'm feeling at the end of this that I could do even better ambient chiptune / Gameboy landscape music, and I plan to do so. This one, much as I like parts of it, it sounds to me like the stuff I made 10 years ago or more on this instrument, with some slight upgrades, but it still isn't quite hitting the Game Boy landscape dream that I'm going for. Might be because the notes are changing too fast. But either way, you'll get more dub, you get more Game Boy landscapes, you get more Father Moo. It's all free. So, yeah. Thanks to all the supporters. Thanks for leaving comments. I got 2 or 3 people who liked one of my narrowcasts, and I felt good for like 24 hours. That's how parasocially addicted I really am. But yeah, party on, my broheims and lady broheims, because I will be back again. Father Moo out.